welcome to Luxe Life Discovered. When Luxe Life Discovered started, the original intent was to showcase the amazing talent and diversity of all the creativity that exists along the Gulf Coast. And we have barely scratched the surface. In fact, since we started in October of 2021, as of today, we've done 130 podcasts. 71 of those have been in studio and 59 have been remote. Since 2024, we've done 14 local in studio podcasts and 32 remote, with 7 of those being international. Through our connection with 30A TV and the great work that they do, we are streamed in all major markets in the US as well as internationally. So our scope has grown, our contacts have increased, and the coverage has also increased as well. But for June and July, we want to focus on the talent along the Gulf Coast because, like I said, that area is so diverse with talent, originality, and just some of the most creative minds out there. And people that have worked in corporate events, retired, moved to Florida at various ages, they have found passion here, or they're living their passion. Some may be working twice as hard, but they're doing what they enjoy and they love every minute of it. And so we want to showcase on individuals as well as businesses that are living their best life, their passion, their Luxe life. So enjoy some clips today from, a few of our previous 30A and Bay County guests, and then be sure to watch the remainder of June and July for more locals who are living their best life. Hope you enjoy. Because so many times people are in the middle of a project, middle of, like you said, even construction on site, and have a need for something. And then it kind of like can shut the whole project down if they have to leave. So this is where you guys come in.
Well, that's exactly right. So that's how it all started. I've been in that position myself so many times where it was either me working on something and I realized that there was a condition change or I was running out of supplies. Then I had to stop what I was doing. I had to go to the store, come back and, to finish the work. And so I lost an hour or two, sometimes even more. And so that's really what we're trying to do with the ground. We're trying to help people to be able to focus what really matters, which is, on the job, stay on site, stay on task, and, we can help them source or we don't really source, but we pick up and deliver. So we'll go and run your errand for you and bring it to you so you don't have to do it yourself.
All right. It's one of those things that you think, okay, is there really a need for it? Is there not? How's it been received in this area?
It's everybody we talk to, and we talk about Grunt because, we're fairly new, so we try to put the word out. And so everybody in the industry, tradesmen, construction people, DIYers, homeowners, they're all just, giving us really positive feedback, what a great idea. So yes, feedback has been good about, the concept and the problem we're trying to solve. It's really just, we're trying to help people to be more efficient, save time, save money, so they can focus on what they need to be doing,
And that's the key to it, efficiency and saving money, because a lot of people could order online what they need, but then you look at the time lapse into getting it and having it delivered. You need it then, and that's where you guys fill that void.
Well, that's exactly right. So imagine, and I can, as an example, I've been in that position, and this is one of the reasons why I came up with Grunt, is I've had an AC contractor at the house. We called the AC guy because our heater was not working. So technician shows up on site, starts troubleshooting, and then he finds out there was a heat element, and he didn't have it on his truck. And he says, well, I have to go to Fort Walton, which is, a round trip, over 2 hours, depending on how much traffic we have.
Right.
And so I said, well, how about this? How about I go get it for you? You move on to the next job today and come back tomorrow. Or if you can come back later today, I'll have it for you. Because if I didn't do that, he would charge me $150 for his time to go to Fort Walton and back. Yeah. So that's kind of how it came about. And, I've been in that position many times. Or if you're, let's say, electrician, and you have a skilled labor on site, try to meet deadline, and all of a sudden you try to send somebody to pick up whatever from Home Depot, Lowe's, or supplier, they're probably going to stop by, grab lunch on the way,
Right.
call their wife, and 2.5 hours later they'll be back on the site.
If they come back to it. I was gonna say, once they leave the site, that's the last thing on their mind.
I've had experiences with subcontractors who were sending their workers to the store, and I was managing these subcontractors, and a lot of times I just go check up on them and there's nobody there. So I called their boss, said, "Hey, where's your guy?" "Oh, he had to go to the store." I said, "Well, next time you need something from the store, you tell me, because I have my maintenance guys on the payroll, and they cost us $35 an hour, versus your guys going to the store and you billing me $125 an hour."
And it's not just the expense of them going, it's everybody else that's delayed. Like we were talking about staying there, and you've got now, instead of one person, maybe a crew of 5 or 10 that's just
waiting, or they email me directly to my email, mhorek@trigrant.com. And so we're getting ready to open another round, and I was trying to get locals involved here, because with a startup like this, if you come in before the big guys come in down the road, like the venture capital, then you have a better chance to have better return on investment. And so if anybody wants to invest, reach out, and we've got we're about to open another round here very soon, actually.
All right. Well, Martin, thank you for being with us today. I'm intrigued by this.
I was doing all the things to where, I was working long hours just to have stuff in my garage, and I wasn't fulfilled. I had a family, and I loved my family, but it was just a lot of things happening in life. And I drove away, and I was from the funeral, and I was telling my wife, I said, if I was a single guy, I'd like sell everything I own and go like hike the Appalachian Trail right now, and I'd go lose myself to find myself. I said, but I love you, I love the boys, I can't do that. And she was like, well, the next best thing, let's take an adventure together as a family.
Nice.
And and so we did. We started like giving things away, having yard sales, and we did all this stuff. And we found a little plot of land close to the beach, and we moved out there, and we started building chicken coops and raising chickens and growing vegetables.
Oh, wow!
And I've never grew anything in my life, right? And so we had to learn the hard way. But that's kind of how it all started. And then some older gentleman from our church came out and was like helping me cut some trees down on the property. And they were like, "Man, y'all live like a bunch of hillbillies on the beach." Because we had a surfboard laid against our chicken coop. And he was like, y'all live like hillbillies on the beach, And I was like, man, I couldn't get that out of my head. I was like, we are living this lifestyle, like this country lifestyle on the beach. And Perito Key is kind of like how it is around here. We have this beautiful bridge that you drive over, and you see like the condos and the beautiful water. And what we would do on our property was we'd like clear land and work with our boys, and as a reward, we'd take them to the beach every day. And we were kind of off the grid, so sometimes we'd use the shower at the beach, and we didn't tell anybody because we didn't want people to come take our kids and think we couldn't afford, But anyway, so we were driving over, and I saw all the beautiful condos and the water, and I was like, man, Beach Billy. I was like, we're Beach Billies. And we went to the beach, and as we're walking, we're in the parking lot, and I'm seeing cars from like, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas. And I'm like, these are Beach Billies too.
Yeah, they just don't want to, they don't know it.
They don't know it. They know like, oh, well, I like the country life. I save up every year to come to the beach. And what am I? Well, you're a Beach Billy. And that's kind of how it was born.
I love that. Yeah. And did you hear what he said in the beginning?
Oil. Mm-hmm. And I'd watch these YouTube videos, and they weren't really good quality. It'd be someone great information, but it'd be someone with their cell phone talking, and it'd be like shaky, and you're kind of like trying to watch it, and you're like, oh, yeah, you're like all dizzy, And I remember complaining to my wife, and my wife isn't about complaining. She's one of those that she's like,
gonna fix it.
Well, I was telling her, I was like, man, complain about it. She's like, well, make better videos and put it on YouTube. That's how my wife is. There's no complaining. It's like, suck it up, buttercup, and let's go. That's her attitude, And so I was like, yes, ma'am. And I started thinking about it. I was like, okay. So I went to Best Buy and bought the original GoPro for like $99 and a little $200 camera, like a family camcorder, and a little like $99 software. And I spent like about 2 or 3 weeks teaching myself how to with the kids, would make like little videos with my kids.
Right.
And I was just learning how to edit. And I was like, hey, I could do this. And we started doing videos on raising chickens and what we feed our chickens. And, oh, we're going to the beach. So we'd take a little, we're going to the beach and doing this and that. And I'd like wear my hats in there. Didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying.
But you just kept going forward.
Just kept going forward, taking steps, right? What do they say? How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Well, I'll just every day I'll take a little bite.
Yep.
And we would go. And sometimes we would advance. Sometimes I felt like that I was spinning my wheels, but I just kept doing it. And it grew from there. And there was a little local access channel that was like, hey, we need to do a TV show. And about that time, I came across 38 TV. And I reached out to Paul, and I was like, and John was like, hey, man, I got something here. And I just sent it thinking that'd be like, oh, this is great, But they came back and was like, this is really cool, I was like, oh, thank you. And he was like, man, you're onto something. He's like, we'd love to have you on our channel. And I was like, wow, I was
I begged for
That just
okay.
happened.
Yeah, I begged for 3 years. No, I'm just kidding.
And he was like, dude, we love it. And so we did. We started off with there, and they treated us right, man. And when it comes to like the TV show and that side of things, he really gave me a big confidence. We worked really hard on our show. We're going to be on 38 TV and a couple more streaming channels. And I would just love, it took us about 2 years to complete this, and we had some ups and downs along the way. And at the times we were like, are we going to be able to continue to do this? But we just fought hard with it. And, we put a lot of time and energy into it. And I really want that to be like a calling card for the show. Like we will never, shows like Duck Dynasty only come along every like 20 or 30 years, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But man, the awareness that show got to bring onto that brand of Duck Commander, and then the platform that family has gotten to make a difference and bring positivity. Because as you know, right now in the world, everything's negative, everything's fighting. People are, there's just all this stuff. And so I hope that, the whole point of the show was not only to introduce people to the beach buggy lifestyle, but also be positive. Put a smile on everyone's face. At the end of every episode, we have a beach buggyism. And it's like words of encouragement.
Ooh.
It's like to encourage you to we talk about the show and we're like, hey, this shows, we just tell them things and be like, hey, take it and run with it. And, if you want to change your life, here's the way you can do it. And just love each other. All that. They're really good. I'm making them sound like they're really good because we had someone.
I was approaching 55, and the emergency department, medicine just in general has really changed over the years. We're being asked to do a lot more than what we used to. So there's a lot more stress, and the influx, or the patient load, I should say, in emergency department has tripled since I've been in. And it's stressful. And as you get older, that stress isn't as good on your body, and so that's
It doesn't drive you like it used to.
right. Yeah, exactly.
In a different way.
And I was an adrenaline junkie for a long time, but you can only do that for so long.
Yeah.
So,
Well, good. So now you have Aqua Vita,
Vitae, yes,
okay, the drip bar.
yes.
Yeah. So tell us a little about that, because it sounds very fascinating.
So I had seen the concept of the IV drip bars, which actually started in Las Vegas, of all places. That was, maybe about 16, 17 years ago. And I remember seeing a big billboard sign, and it was an anesthesiologist that was running this thing. And I can't remember the name of it, it was something cheesy. It was like Hangover Wagon or something. And as a medical community, of allopathic physicians, we laughed at it. We said, This is a joke.
And who knew?
Right, who knew? Because that guy's a multimillionaire.
Right, yeah.
And his whole concept was putting in Greyhound buses. He would just gut out old Greyhound buses.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So, yeah.
And it took off. So, you had to say, well, there's got to be something there. But I couldn't entertain doing that during my other part of my life. And so, it was always in the back of my mind, though. And then the popularity of it continued to grow. And, as an ER physician, I really never got to spend a whole lot of time talking to people. It would be, what are you here for? I would determine if they have an emergency and then go from there and off to the next patient.
Right.
Which I always felt a little guilty for, because one of the biggest complaints that patients have is my doctor didn't talk to me, or I never saw the doctor. And I always felt a little guilty. And again, I'm going to blame the system for that, not
Because
yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. So I thought, well, what I was saying was I approached 55 or was approaching 55. That's when I said, you know what? I think not only just for my health, but I thought it would be also therapeutic for me to be able to sit and listen to people, just to actually, yes. And it's been amazing. I mean, since I've started this, the feedback I've gotten from people has been absolutely immense. They tell me that I'm doing more for them just spiritually, just than me listening to them. And it's been tenfold back to me as far as
I was going to say it's
returns.
probably just as good back to you.
Yes, it has been
But
wonderful.
you bring out a good point that I hadn't thought about too, but from the physician standpoint, being limited on how you can interact, it does, I'm sure, have a mixed emotion for you, because while you want to listen, of course, there's always those that you think, okay, that's enough.
Right.
But you can't, but you don't have that option because you're on not a crunch, but you've got all these people to visit with or to see and keep up with. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a stress that comes behind that, not just because of how busy the emergency department is, but administration. At a lot of the big corporate-owned hospitals have basically turned medicine into a widget factory. It's a time crunch. You're measured from the time that somebody checks in at the yes, and I mean, we're talking serious matrix numbers. And if you don't meet those numbers,
if you spend too long, then they're
Yep.
kind of a negative.
Yes, and
Interesting.
everything is on a timer. I mean, I kid you not. And so if you,
So if you can't diagnose something really serious, then it's time to move on to something else.
it's they just,
I mean, it's like that's bad.
yeah, exactly right. Sometimes I felt like they're not concerned about the 3 codes or traumas that just came in that consumed your time.
Yeah.
They're more concerned about the 10, really non-sick people that
Right.
are upset because they've had to wait for a few minutes. So,
Wow.
but that's what I meant by that's what
Sure.
medicine's
Yeah.
come to.
Yeah. That's interesting. So with the bar, the IV bar. So isn't it funny? I was laughing when you said about the guy and what it was called. It's funny how we go through life at different stages, and what seems ridiculous at some point
Right.
comes back later, and you're like,
Yeah,
maybe not so bad after all.
Right.
Or not a crazy concept.
absolutely, and I found that with the IV services, okay, a lot of them are ran not typically by a physician. I mean, most states require a physician be involved in some way, and that means well, there's a lot of physicians out there that just sign a piece of paper,
Right.
and they're collaborative doctors, what they call it. And they're 6 states away. They've never seen the IV bar. And so there's a lot of hokey pokey stuff that goes on out there, and which have given some IV bars a bad name. And, you'll see as these things become more popular, even more popular, the media is going to go ahead and they're going to grab onto that one
Right.
silly thing.
Yeah.
So that was the other reason I felt like it would be a good fit for me. To have my medical training involved with something like
Yeah,
this.
doctor staff.
Right. And my clients seem to appreciate that. So that's what's really taken a hold, and we've become very, very popular in about a year and a half. So
So it's okay. It's only been a year and a half. That's
a year and a half.
So who uses your services more than anybody else?
Demographic-wise?
Demographic, but
Okay.
also
Like
need.
for what reason?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll start with the demographic-wise.
Okay.
It seems like women are probably, well, I shouldn't say probably, they are my most common client. And that range I'd say probably about age 30 to 50.
Okay.
If you look at the bell curve, they're way at the top.
Yeah.
And then these are women who they're becoming middle age or starting to become middle age, and they're more concerned about their health. And it's funny because I do see a lot of people have a distrust of regular traditional medicine. And here I am, I'm a traditional physician. So they will come in and some people, this is where there's a fine line that's towed, is they may not want to go get that cancer treatment. And that's where I have to draw the line. I don't make any false promises, and I'm going to be honest and tell them that, please don't give up on traditional medicine. It's not a big conspiracy. We're not all in this together to take your money. But on that note, IV bars are wonderful for people who want to take a proactive approach to their life. There's always been some debate well, there still is some debate. Well, are these actually necessary? Okay, it's still a lot for the regular medical community to wrap their head around that this is a kind of like an off-the-shelf purchase. You walk in, I'd like to get some IV fluids. So the FDA, and the regular medical community had a hard time with that, but they're slowly starting to catch on because they see that this does benefit people's lives. We don't just do hangover
Is it
cures.
just one kind of IV stuff?
No, I have different varieties. You know, it's for different ailments. The most common or most popular one is our modification. If you've heard of the Myers cocktail, have you heard of that?
No.
No.
So that was created in 1963 by Dr. John Myers, who was sort of the one of those doctors to the stars. So he created his vitamin cocktail mixture, and the celebrities, that's who he would give it to, they loved it. So just like everything,
Like
celebrities,
boost their system and stuff? Or-
yeah, I mean, basically, there's a long list of what is good for, and in my menu I put good for just about everything. But it's a combination of some vitamin C, B complex, B12, calcium, and magnesium, and of course with the IV fluid. So it does help with muscle cramps, leg cramps. That's because of the calcium and the magnesium. The vitamin C, we all know that eating oranges is good to prevent, scurvy if you're a pirate. Basically scurvy is a soft tissue collagen disease.
Right.
B complex is it's all the B vitamins when you say B complex, except for B12. For some reason, they don't typically include B12 when you say B complex, and then B12. And we all know B12 is good. That's
For
a
your
very
energy.
Yes, energy, because it's involved for neuron formation as well as red blood cell formation. So in people that are deficient in it will tend to have some sort of a neuropathy, meaning kind of numbness maybe in their fingers or toes. And when they take the B12, that tends to go away. So the vitamins,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. So there's,
Do you have some out in your car?
what's that? Yeah, I sure do. Free sample. So
So how long does it take for an IV to
Take
go
effect?
into your body,
Yeah.
and then how long does it take for it to take effect?
So that's a great question. That's probably the most common question. So our IVs are administered with 1 liter. 1 liter normal saline is always the base, and then I mix the actual vitamins into that liter. And depending on the size of, if you have good veins, if you're an 18-year-old and you got hoses, we can use a larger caliber IV. And I mean, it can go in within 30 minutes just by gravity alone. But to somebody who's a little bit older, frail, you have to use a smaller IV, and it could take up to an hour.
It may
sometimes
take you
longer.
35 minutes, Shannon.
So, and then the other thing is you also want to be safe. If it's I do see all ages. Okay, so if I have a 75-year-old, I'm not going to want that fluid to flush in that fast.
Yeah.
Even I'm very, very good about screening everybody who comes through to make sure that I'm not going to hurt them with those fluids. And there are some people that I've had to turn away. For instance, like a
Okay.
dialysis patient, you're not going to give them fluids. Somebody with congestive heart failure, you're not going to do that.
So you interview each patient.
I do.
Okay.
And
that's good.
yes.
Yeah.
I interview every single person real quick, and it's pretty quick. It's easy. I've done this a long time, so I'm very comfortable with what I'm doing. And right off the bat, I've established a really good rapport with the client. They're just not used to it. I hear this all the time. Wow, a physician's meeting me at the door and doing this?
Yeah.
And I'm not your typical physician. I'm a little quirky in some aspects, so they like that. So
Right. Kind of
Once
breaks
you-
all the stereotypes, and
Right.
Yeah.
Once
exactly.
you get your IV, how long does it take to start feeling it?
So
Because it's IV,
right.
you think quicker, right?
So IV, anything IV is going to typically be faster. It's going directly to the source. You're bypassing the digestive system. When you take a vitamin, usually you're only going to absorb about 1/5 of that vitamin if you're, eating it, all right, swallowing it. The rest goes out of your fecal matter. Whereas IV, you're going to get almost 100% of that IV. Now, here's where the debate comes in: is whether you need this or not. And there is some truth to it. If you're not deficient in certain vitamins, water-soluble vitamins, you're likely going to just urinate it out within 24 hours or so. And that's a fact. So again, I tell these, because I get asked that question all the time, how long? I'm a very honest person. It's a very transparent answer. It really depends on if you're deficient. And people say, well, how do I know if I'm deficient? Well, there's two ways. You know, you can get a very expensive lab test, which will show you, or we just go by your history. Are you a vegan? Are you on some sort of a fad diet? Do you have some sort of disorder like a malnutrition where you're not absorbing, Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis? Those are all things that might make you deficient in certain vitamins. If you're one of those that just don't go out in the sun, period, you're going to be deficient in vitamin D, right? So we can formulate some sort of a plan based on your history.
So
That's
after you get an
interesting,
IV,
Yep.
how often can you get them? Because I'm sure once you get it, you're going to be feeling like $1 million.
Yes, and so, and I'll kind of go back to your question. You said, how long does it take before you feel the effect? I always tell everybody, you're not going to feel like you just got, some sort of stimulant right here, and do cartwheels out the door.
Okay.
But where they do feel good immediately is when they get those fluids, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Right away.
Hydrate you.
Absolutely. It's absolutely amazing to see how somebody will come in completely fatigued and not really talking to me, and once they get those fluids in, they're chattering and talking. Yeah, and they feel wonderful. So the other stuff, like with the vitamin B12, if you're everybody tends to feel better, or they'll notice the effects of B12 within a few hours. Okay, vitamin C, you're not really going to know any effect because it's something you have to take on a chronic basis, right? So that's it all depends on what you're giving them.
So are there prescribed treatments, or is there repeated?
Is there a plan
Yeah,
that you sign up for?
Yeah, so it's really it's easier than it sounds. They come in and I'll say, well, what would you like, and then they'll tell me, and then we'll discuss a little bit about why, and then we just kind of formulate some sort of plan there. Some people like what they're getting, so they just repeatedly come back. But I'll write. Of course, we do documentation and an electronic medical record. That part does look very doctor-like. And, because we do want to know what we gave you last time and if you responded to it or not. And so, each time is different, but we have memberships and stuff like that. So we do have people, actually quite a few, that are regular clients. They come back. So you can, and again, that's going to depend on who you are. Again, an 18-year-old is going to have probably 6 places in his arm or her arm that we can find to access, whereas a 75-year-old female might have half an inch of just one area. So on that person, you're not going to want to poke, probably even once a week. It may be about every 2 weeks, okay? I tell everybody a good rule of thumb is 2 to 4 weeks, and that's only because when we're puncturing your skin, that is damage, right? I'm sticking a needle, and then we pull the IV out. It's got to heal. So if I'm taking that 1 inch on that 75-year-old lady and not giving it adequate time to heal, she's going to scar. Okay, and then we're going to take away their good IV access when they truly need it in an emergent situation. So I avoid that.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, all right, most people think with the IV bar, it's just for hangovers.
Right.
So
Ding, ding,
I'm
ding, ding.
I'm kind of blown away because I never knew about this other part of it. So it's much more useful than just feeling good after partying.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
It is. Yeah. You're 100% correct. Because I do have real medicines that I use. I use medicines for nausea, called Zofran. Maybe you've heard of that. Toradol, which is for it's basically IV Motrin, but a little bit stronger, non-narcotic. So it's very safe to give to people as long as they're not allergic to NSAIDs, and that they're not too old for that, because it can actually be a little stressful on the kidney as you get older. We have not just for the hangover, which is our -- seller during summer, by the way, and right now it is too. But during winter, we have an immunity booster. All right, so which is vitamin C and zinc. We have, we can do a play on the mixture. We can do B complex with it, or even add glutathione, which is a very, very popular anti-radical, antioxidant produced by the liver, wonderful with the immune system. So that was very popular. We all knew vitamin C and zinc was effective when COVID hit. There used to be some kind of a joke again with us regular medical folks that it was a waste of time. Really, I'm telling you, it's one of those I just love to watch people's faces because they feel so good with it.
All right, good deal. Our time has flown by.
Okay.
But will you come back some
Oh,
other
yeah,
time
we
and
need
talk?
to- I
Yeah,
wanna hear
because
more.
yes.
All right,
'cause
yeah, I'd
you
love
just
to.
got like be peaked right
I would
here.
love
It's
to.
like, I want to keep going. All right, look at your screen and the camera and tell people how to reach you. And
So you can reach us by phone number, 850-842-3296. You can go onto our website at www.aquavitae, that's AQUAVITAEIV.com. Or you can email us. It looks like my wife's email's up there, and that is Stacey, STACEE, at aquavitaiiv.com. Or you can email me, Doc, DOC, at aquavitaiiv.com.
all right, I've always dealt with Stacy because I figured you're way too busy to deal with everything else. So we're good. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. It was interesting because I learned so much.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and
I enjoyed it.
We will be doing a road trip soon.
Oh, I look forward to it.
We
We'll
may
take
have to
good care
do
of
like
it.
a video and calls like that. We'll document it. Yeah.
That sounds
All right.
fun.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Luxe Life Discovered.
Check out Luxe Life Discovered on Facebook and Instagram and on 30a.tv. See you next time on Luxe Life Discovered.